People are running around like a chick with their head cut off looking for a place to park because their clocks are ticking. But the thing is when everybody's panic buying, it can start hitting it real hard. It's mile-long warehouses that are full of food and supplies.
Too many times as entrepreneurs, ignore what's happening in the political world because we don't want to get dragged down into the mess. But more today than ever before, we need to have a voice. Otherwise, we're going to be left behind. I started Lurn exactly for this reason. So starting today with Freedom Friday, let me be your voice. What's up, you crazy fighting entrepreneurs? Wow. We're back. Freedom Fridays. That's right. By popular demand. And you know what? What better time than to do it now in this crazy Corona world where, I don't know, man, things are getting topsy-turvy there. There's lots of protests going on and I don't know, the economy's, I don't know, just crazy stuff happening. So we're going to explore all of it together. And that's why I'm back with Freedom Fridays. Plus, I'm locked in my house. I don't have anything better to do. I have lots of opinions and lots of thoughts, and we're going to get out there. Lots of different kinds of episodes. We'll do exposés where I'm going to find different people, out of different industries, like today's episode. And then we'll do some facts and we'll look at some numbers. We might even look at some conspiracies, have some controversy here. Today, we're going to talk to a trucker, Jim the Trucker, who believes very confidently that he's already had the coronavirus back in January. Can you believe that? And survived it, obviously. And we're going to talk to him about all kinds of stuff. The episode's going to begin with us talking about just a life of a trucker. Nothing to do with coronavirus. Just what does a trucker's life look like? How many of you actually know what a trucker's life looks like? I never did. And then we're going to talk about some of the challenges that he's facing, the good, the bad, what's going on for truckers, how's the supply chain looking? And then we're going to just talk to him generally about, I don't know, what he thinks about the economy, what he thinks about how our government's handling this. It's a riveting interview. I loved it. All right, so hang tight. Here we go. I'm going to turn things over and let's talk to Jim the Trucker. Jim Hudson, or AKA Jim the Trucker, who was introduced to me by our good friend Sean Donahoe. So Sean, thank you. Shout out to you. I got to tell you guys, one of the things I love the most about my Facebook friends is that I can ask them anything and they always refer me to amazing people. So Jim and I connected real quick yesterday. And I'm just amazed at how little I know about this massive industry, trucking, right? Like, you don't think about it. Yeah, you go to the grocery store and get some food. How did it get there? I mean, all the things you buy at stores, how did it get there? And now with all these stores closed down and with all the economy things happening, I thought it would be no better time than to get into the life of a trucker and to see what they live like, what they think is happening in the economy. And Jim's going to give us a little bit of insight. So Jim, my friend, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you taking some time out and you're coming live from your truck, which is awesome.
Yes, sir. Thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it, man. So Jim, we're going to dive right into it. Before we get into the more coronavirus and current economic type of questions, can you walk me through what's a typical day? What's a typical week? I know today happens to be an off day for you. And I asked you and you said, yeah, you'll live in your truck sometimes for months at a time, weeks at a time. I just want to know, what time do you usually get up? What time do you start? What's a day look like for someone in the trucking space?
Well, it could be for the different persons that are delivering to different types of stores. Let's say grocery warehouse guys that are really hopping right now. Most of their deliveries are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. So they would have to travel and then plan their sleeper time and then get up, roll into the warehouse, be able to back into the dock and deliver their goods, or pick up their goods, however it works out. It's quite different across the spectrum. For me, I try to pick times that are a little bit non-peak hours, but it depends on your customer base.
So how long, so that's a pretty early start. How many hours a day would you say you work, a typical trucker, between driving, picking up and dropping off? What's a typical day?
Well, you're only allowed 11 hours of drive time, 14 hours work. If you start your clock, it ticks off and it will not stop. So that the current clock on the ELD mandate is your 14-hour day starts. That's it. Once you enter duty time or move your truck, because it's an automatic drive time, as soon as you start moving, it puts you right on drive. So you have 14 hours to complete it, but 14 hours is up. chances are your day is not through. So it just depends. If guys are trying to push it across the United States from, say a particular warehouse to get to a distribution center, they're pushing most of their day, and they have to be out for 10 hours, and they get up and do it all over again. So if I'm going from across the United States, I have to push 630, 650 miles a day, sometimes a little more. I've had a record, I think it was 732 miles on electronic logs in a day.
Wow. That's amazing. So pretty common for a trucker to work 14 hours. I mean, I know that's the maximum you're allowed. Is it pretty common that every trucker just maxes out what they can?
Yes, it maxes out, and a lot of times is trying to find places to park. Let's say they get there, they've already started their clock. They arrive at a warehouse, for example, and they work unloading a truck, and they're manually doing it or paying a lumper to do it. That kind of thing happens all the time. Their 14-hour clock is still ticking. They have already driven and they're already tired, or at least, in that realm of being, well into their work day. And then they get to warehouse and they have to break down a pallet or move them off, or, tailgate the load, pull it off with a pallet jack, let the other folks take over, and then they have to go find a place to park. And most of the time they get kicked out. And that's commonplace. No restrooms allowed for the drivers, no places to park. You'll see issues with the rest areas in Pennsylvania. They did have that issue here in the past, and they fixed it. But they had closed rest areas during the virus outbreak. And where were drivers supposed to go? It's already bad enough out here. So it's bad.
Yeah, I definitely want to get into that, because I think a lot of people don't think about the fact. So let's say, Jim, you get up in the morning, and I want to take a break here real quick to make sure everyone understands something. Most truckers are actually independent contractors. So they're entrepreneurs. I mean, in our case, Jim, you told me yesterday, you own your own truck, you're your own boss, you run your own,
Yes,
show. And so that's another reason why they're going to max out the 14 hours. But, we complain, and I know that there's a lot of work out there. A lot of people work really hard out there. 14 hours of physical labor. I did not know that. I genuinely did not know that is the number of hours. 14 and 10 is not much. I mean, it's literally take an hour here and there to eat. It's 8 hours of sleep. It's back up. And you're not around family, or you're in a closed space. You're by yourself. It's a lot of hard work. So Jim, let's say you're driving, you want to have lunch. What's common? Because you got this big truck. You're not going to pull into a McDonald's. I mean, what is it? How do truckers eat? What do you guys do?
Well, most of the time, my typical day is I'll grab my day's food and lay it in the passenger seat. I got my drinks and everything. I've got my refrigerator in the back. I'm rolling. If the wheels are not rolling, I'm not making any money, because I'm getting paid by the mile. In a lot of cases of the company drivers, it's very little. So that's why you see them pushing it. Yes, they have a mandatory 30-minute break they must take somewhere, but most time that food is sitting right next to me in my seat, and I'm picking off of that. I'll have sandwiches laid out. I'll have granola bars. I've got sweet tea. I got gallons of water, whatever I need, and I'm rolling. And that's why I can make those kinds of miles every day. I don't stop unless I have to. And they call it a sissy break, nanny break, anything like that, for 30-minute break. Before that existed, I did not stop. I would drive my full clock and roll that beautiful bean footage.
And so you said driving, you can only do 11 hours though, right? 14 you can work, but driving 11.
Yes.
Okay. So everyone, just so you know, his truck actually has obviously a sleeping quarter, but it's got a fridge, it's got a television. What we're going to do is I actually asked him for his model number of his truck. So we're going to put a picture of what the interior kind of looks like. It's similar. You can go to anikpodcast.com, check the show notes, or if you're watching on YouTube, we'll edit it into the video and it'll be there. It's pretty cool. I've never seen inside of a truck until I looked at that picture. Jim, so sissy break. I like that. What was it? Sissy break, Nancy break? What were the words?
Nanny break. It was government mandated after 8 hours of driving, you must take 30 minutes off. I don't like government telling me what to do in any way, including in the virus stuff. So, I don't like the nanny break. I don't like the ELD. I worked on paper for many, many years, paper logs. And no, I did not cheat. And we had to round up in 15-minute increments our duty times. So the whole thing is that having to take that is inconvenient. We've complained about it for years because it kind of puts you in a bad situation. Everybody trying to rush to find some place to legally park. You'll see people parked on ramps. We're not allowed to do that. It's called sitting duck law, a rule in our company, and you get fired for it or you get terminated on your lease. So we have to find a legal place to park. But, I just rather be able to make my own choices because we are owner operators. Choices. It's my choice, my business, that kind of thing.
How do they mandate this? So, for example, how do they know if you've driven 11 or 12 hours or whatever? Is there some kind of central track device in your truck that requires you?
Look up an ELD. I believe, what was the name of it? It's an Omnitrax. Yeah, Omnitrax ELD. You could probably pull one of those up and show a photo of one of those, and it has a clock and it has a ticking timer there, and it shows you on your DOT regulations how much time you have left, and it warns you at the 1 hour increment, gives you a yellow light and an audible. I have the speaker turned off, but it'll give you an audible sound and a light, and it'll tell you, and then you start searching for your compliance area.
So I get it. So that makes a lot of sense. And so quick question, then I'm going to get into, I want to talk a little bit about the financials behind this, and then I want to talk about the coronavirus impact right now. You're driving down, 8 hours hits, you got to take a 30-minute sissy break. I love that. I just love what you guys call it. But you're not at a rest area. You already said parking is a difficult thing. You're not going to pull into a random neighborhood and park. What do you do? Like if an 8 hour clock hits, like, do you have to manage that? You have to be way ahead of yourself, knowing where you're going to be. And so where do you park? Is rest areas the only option, or are there other options for you?
Rest areas and truck stops. I use an app to help me look way ahead. It comes up by uses Google Map, and it has little icons on it for truck stop and rest area, Walmart. But I'd call the Walmart ahead of time and make sure that I have permission from the manager to go in there to grocery shop. But I've been out here long enough to know where to go. So that's the biggest advantage. I feel sorry for the new folks that don't. But there are truck stop guides in print, plus there's electronic stuff that's come out now, because I started way before the internet. I started way before apps existed. I started, we were using regular map books and that kind of thing. So you had to know where to go.
So Jim, this is a lot of hard work. And I don't think most people realize just how hard you all work. Do you happen to know how many truckers are there in the country? I'm sure I can pull that data up pretty quickly.
Well, I was looking up. I don't know.
I
know there's like 443,000 independent operator motor carriers, and only about 1,400 of them or so have 100 or more trucks. But the rest of them have.
That's still a lot, though. That's a half of transportation.
But that's not including all the great big mega carriers, But like one of ours is considered that. But the people that carry the lifeblood of the nation is, it's not just the company driver, but also the owner operator, the person that puts it all on the line, the risk, the expense. Yes, sir.
So Jim, why do this? What can a trucker earn? Give me a range. If they work 14 hours a day and they work like super hard, like dogs, what is their earning potential wise?
Well, the most I ever made was as a driver trainer, teaching new people. I think I made $223,000 in a year, and that's not bad. But when it's an average of 150 to 170,000 owner op, 60 to 70 if you're lucky. You may just take it and halve that by to company driver. And I'm just giving generalities here because every segment of trucking is going to be different. There are going to be different like dedicated lanes where you're going to have X amount of your pay scale. They've got 0 to 100 miles is a certain cent per mile. Anything over 1,000 miles is a certain rate per mile. For me, I get percentages of the load. So I paid totally different than some of the.
Wow. So lots of ways and lots of wide range. So Jim, let's get into this. What's going on in the Corona world right now for the trucking space? Are you seeing any, are you facing challenges right now? What would you say some of the biggest challenges are with this coronavirus lockdown and you guys still out and about doing your things? What are some of the challenges you're facing?
Well, example in Utah, they put out a note on the OIDA website, Owner Operators Independent Driver Association, keeps us abreast of some of the newest changes. And they were going to have a text message come over your phone as soon as you crossed their state line. And you had 3 hours to complete this questionnaire. Where did you come from? Do you have symptoms? Do you feel sick? Well, all I can hearken back to was as soon as they started that, I got thinking, excuse me, but it was Gestapo, papers, please, that kind of thing, 1930s, 1940s. It's like, no, I won't be doing that. They're not constitutional. I called OIDA attorneys and asked them, I said, I'm not filling it out. Then within 72 hours of people, I'm sure, calling them, they got them squared away and they rescinded that order for essential workers, truck drivers and that kind of thing. But individual health departments have got their own set of rules within a region, like Salt Lake City proper, out here where I'm at in Tula, Utah. It's totally different. Just to make a phone order in and how you have to walk, how much spacing you have to take, so many people allowed in the store, which is only one, that kind of thing. In the actual Burger King or Taco Bell or whatever it is, and that's about the choices we get for food out here. It gets us a little better in the store, but they've taken away so many choices, like soup. Anything that's self-serve, you cannot have it. So my normal day would be grab a cup of soup and maybe a sweet tea or just have a Gatorade or something. Most of all the soups are gone. Any of the hot table things are completely gone. None of that food is available. You have to grab where they serve it and they're touching the food. I don't know. It's just kind of, I'll be glad when it's over.
So your food options have become far more unhealthy.
Yes.
Because now you're basically being forced to eat the fast food. Thank God there's still options. I'm a little surprised because here in Maryland, I can't go to McDonald's or Burger King. They're all closed as far as I know. Maybe they're not. Is that a special thing for you as a trucker that you can go to these restaurants, or you just have to find one that happens to be open for the
some variations in rules? Some allow a drive-through only. Everything is takeout. The McDonald's at the truck stop in Billings, Montana, you walked up to the gate, the wiry looking gate, and they would step up to it and take your order. Then they would take the money through the gate, go back and bring your change, and they bring your order, and they'd lift the gate, hand you your food. That was several weeks ago. So that was in Montana, different set of rules. Utah, totally different. Let's see, there was a truck stop in Oregon where I was at, because I've been in some of the hotspot places, and you would walk up and place an order right there in person, no problem. But restaurant seating was closed, but you could take everything out. Food was great. I was going to get fat there if I stayed there much longer. But, it was really good.
Okay, so what about truck stops, rest areas? Are they still open? Are you finding it harder to find places to park? Food is obviously more difficult, but what other areas have there been changes that have impacted you?
Some rest areas were closed. I have seen still, some places like out west will close rest areas for seasonal because of, the amount of cost it takes to heat the building, keep the water pipes from freezing. But there are some places they're doing wonderful work. Some states, they're actually giving out meals at the rest areas to truckers. I mean, completely free.
Wow.
A lot of volunteers across the nation that are standing or even working at truck stops, handing out bagged lunches. State patrols and the way stations, they're doing that. They're giving food away to people. So they're volunteers that are doing that.
Man, I am glad to hear that. Good for you, America. That's awesome that I could hear something positive like that. Probably the first positive thing I've heard. So, Jim, it's tough out there, obviously, even for you just to get food and find the places to stop. But at least it's not horrific. It's not horrible. Have you gotten any financial support, or the industry gotten any financial support from the government? Do you guys even need it? Are you asking, or it's not really necessary?
I'm personally not affected. So I've been on a dedicated run since before Christmas. See, I use that as a marker, but I wasn't home, and I hardly am ever home for any of the holidays. So I just use them as a marker. For Christmas, I wasn't even there. I was in Kentucky, getting ready to load out to work for 8 weeks straight in Washington State. So it's kind of different. I mean, yeah. I am not affected. I don't need a loan. I don't need, any. Some people are going to be losing their jobs, or because there are some suppliers that are not considered essential, and some places that they need to open back up because drivers are losing their jobs. I'm learning, and which is unfortunate because there's nothing to pick up because they're closed.
Yeah. So, Jim, what are you seeing as we kind of round up this interview? First of all, thank you so much for being here and giving us a little look into the life of a trucker. But let's talk about a trucker's life during the coronavirus world right now. You are the supply chain. You see what's happening at the rest areas. You see what's happening at the consumer demand, because if consumer demand's up, you're busy. If consumer demand is down, you're not. What are you seeing in the economy right now from a trucker's perspective, from the ground zero, like literally from the ground? What are you seeing? Are we a healthy economy right now? Is everything still good? Things going to open back up? We'll be fine. Food will be on the shelves. Or are you seeing things are going to get worse before they get better?
Well, I was reading some of the notes, and I was actually seeing it also in the truck stops, because the truck stops are a barometer of our economy. But the thing is that panic buying, when all that went down, everybody's freaking out and buying all the toilet paper and all the groceries. I mean, stripping shelves bare. It looked like locusts just went through a field. I was in Laurel, Montana. I went in to I'll just get a few groceries. My refrigerator is only about that big, and about that deep. I can only fit so much in it. It's about the size of a regular cooler. Mm-hmm. I went in to get just basics, just a few things. There was nothing. There wasn't anything. It was stripped bare as far as you could see, with the one or two hidden, there might be an item or two here or there. Paper aisle, completely wiped clean, not one package, not one single package of paper towels or anything. Some of the cold storage, bins or reach-ins or whatever, were stripped over 50%. And some places were actually bare. Baked goods, a lot of fruits and vegetables that were getting bought out, easy to eat, like bananas and apples, oranges, gone. And it didn't take them but 24 hours. But when the truckers picked up the pace, the orders came in, because we just can't just show up and haul it. We have to be contracted to haul it, and they have to have a bill lading and a pickup number and everything else. But all that has to go down through the order chain, from all the way from manufacturer or importer to actual end result vendor. So there's multiple steps that go through there. And I think we talked about it yesterday, where they might pick it up from manufacturer or the storage warehouse or whatever, take it to a distribution center, distribution right on to the store. It does take time, folks, for that food to get there. It is in the chain. There is stuff sitting in the warehouses. They've got mile-long warehouses that are full of food and supplies. But the thing is when everybody's panic buying, it can start hitting it real hard. So the solution would be they're going to have to up their loads, but that takes a few days. There's always a little bit of lag time. And once they put the orders in, then the trucks start rolling. So the trucks have been really producing, and the guys have been working, and gals have been working hard, laying in a lot of hours. When you haul a specific COVID-related load for relief, you are relieved of those hours of service. You have to carry a paper along with your bill of lading stating so, and you could actually go over that 11-hour driving. You were allowed by, so much for rules. They just wiped them clean, and if you needed to get supplies, medical supplies, whatever, to the points A to point B, you were allowed to do so. And everybody was asked to, take care and watch yourself. And if you're getting super tired, to knock off and take your break and get up and do it again. But they were alleviated of that situation. The truck stops are full. I've been seeing them, they're still full. Every night, people are running around like a chick with their head cut off, looking for a place to park because their clocks are ticking. And they have to park legally, and they have to not be moving because they pick up motion on the truck on that clock. So you only have so much time. So it's almost like musical chairs. This is about what you can think about it. When the music stops, do you have a parking spot? So it's really crazy. And that's what's going on right now. I mean, I do see still quite a rush to fill those orders as the lag time is picking up to get all these stores filled back up. And there's still people buying stores out of supplies. So
Jim, how do you think our government's done? How do you think America's done and handled the coronavirus? What is the word in your circle and in your friends? I'm curious to hear.
I look at it from trying to nonpartisan as best I can. But the thing is that when someone mentions that they were being told to shut the whole country down, as far as forced, there's a thing called the Constitution that we all lived under. We're all Americans. We are free, and you have a Constitution that is supposedly supreme law of the land. The thing is that when our government said we're going to rely on the governors, which is exactly what it's supposed to be, that they dictate what happens within their borders. I don't have a lot of other information simply because I don't have television. So I don't have a satellite dish like some drivers do. I just have never done it. I rely on, other sources, YouTube or whatever. If I catch live, whatever information that comes over in a briefing, that works, but I haven't always been able to catch them because I just don't have the time.
Yeah, it is a tricky topic, right? Being forced to be locked down and to have it extended. Luckily, it's kept you busy, and you haven't been impacted, and your industry seems to be busy. And I agree with you. I think it's a great barometer. As long as truckers are busy, it means there's got to be something going on in the economy, because stores won't order products unless they're being bought. So that's some hope, and hopefully we can open things up here again. I have a question for you, completely unrelated. How do you have internet right now? Because your internet connection is a lot better than most guests that we'll sometimes get on. Is that because you said you don't have satellite? How do you plug into the internet?
Well, I've got a hotspot on my phone. I basically wear out equipment like crazy, but I turn my phone into a hotspot and set it on the dash. And that way I've got reasonable, and I'm out here, Salt Lake Basin. There is no obstructions except for the mountains behind me, but that's where the satellite towers are. No problem. So pretty reasonable.
It's awesome. Jim, how often do you get to go back home and see family and just, take a break? What does that look like? Do you ever take a break? Because you miss holidays and everything.
I do. I have a wife at home and 4-legged children. So it's nice to get back home. And I worked hard for that place in Montana. I live in a remote spot. And I really enjoy being there. Sometimes when I do go home, it's like once I'm off duty, and that's it. I might be home for 6 or 8 weeks. I might take a full month and a half or more. I save up for it the whole year, and it makes it easy for me. But while I've been under this particular contract, I've gotten home a couple of times in between deliveries and got to see the wife for a few days. It was great. but we're knocking down some bills with this contract that I'm on now. I'm off to the next one here tomorrow. I do my final 2 stops, and then I drive about 2,000 miles back to Kentucky. Switch trailers, going back to the open deck that you probably will show. I have a step band with a lift gate right now that I'm doing custom work for. Switching trailers, and we'll start on the next one, and I have to do overheight deliveries. So that I will be on permitted loads for the whole summer.
Man, I feel like we got to do a documentary with you one of these days. Follow you around for a month or so and just document, because it sounds so interesting. And I just feel like no one in America knows what you guys go through. We see trucks drive by all the time. Oh, it's a truck, but it's like so much behind the scenes. I didn't even know that the regulation on how many hours you can drive is so highly mandated, and there's actual devices that track it, which is crazy. So last question, Jim, and I'll let you go because I know it's your day off and I want to appreciate and respect you and your time. Are you worried about your safety at all? You're out there, you're still meeting people, seeing people, you're in these truck stops. Is there any rules around, do you guys have to wear gloves, masks? Like, what about the safety side of things?
You'll see drivers wearing masks and gloves, and that's their privilege. You don't see me wearing them simply because I felt like I already had the Rona. One of the earliest cases, December 30th through January 5th, I was working 8 weeks in Washington State, which is one of the nation's first hot spots, and some of the first reported. They called it a new virus. I don't know if they had the name yet for that, but the people where I visited in Yakima, they said, well, we think you have the new virus. And I'm like, okay. They gave me a breathing treatment. They gave me an inhaler. They gave me steroids and a zithromycin. I'm already on a great vitamin program anyway, and I continue to do that today. I also take elderberry syrup and an 18-herb tincture. So I'm well fortified against it. But there are people out there that don't have that either knowledge or capability or understanding of that kind of stuff.
So let me get this straight. So in January, you were in Washington State and you actually fell ill, and you were told by the doctors that they thought you have whatever this new virus is that's been going around.
Yes, sir. They didn't have tests then, see? So the first confirmed case in the United States was January 21st or 23rd or something, but I'm pretty sure that I had it at that time. So if there are antibodies in there, plus I'm fortifying myself with a second round of upper level herbal medicine, and I'm continuing with my regular normal daily routine, because I've got some great prepper people that live in remote mountains in Montana, and they were handing me stuff. Here, take this and take this with you, and throw that in your juice.
What were the symptoms you had that made them think you had, what's now known as coronavirus?
Sinus, upper chest. It was tightness, and with everything that they talked about, I didn't really have a fever because some people don't get any fever at all, but it was tight. Chest was locked up like an elephant sitting on it. I could not break anything loose, and I could not get a breath. But the wonderful truck stop wouldn't let me park my trailer and separate the tractor and the trailer so I could take myself to a doctor. So guess who walked a half a mile to the doctor? Heck with you guys. I'm tired of you. I'm just going to go on with it. So I walked to the doctor, got treated, and got squared away. Went and secluded myself in the truck. The only time I left was at night when there were less customers in there, and I got my food and got the heck out, got back to the truck so I could take care of myself, at least have a little something to eat, but take my medicines to get over being, infectious if possible. Wow. And it usually takes about 72 hours. So.
Wow. Well, that didn't come up in yesterday's little pre-interview we did before the podcast. That was an interesting tidbit.
Well, man.
I didn't ask. That's true. I guess in today's world, we have to ask, hey, have you had the coronavirus already? Like, that's probably
have you had the Rona?
Have you had the Rona? Jim, my friend, you live an amazing and interesting life. You work really hard. I salute you, sir. Thank you very much for everything you do. I don't take lightly anymore. I don't. I can say I probably did for a while, but I don't take lightly anymore what you and your industry does for us. I get to sit in my house and order in things and just be in safety while you guys are out there on the front lines working hard, 14-hour days, moving all these products. I recently had done an interview, I had done an episode, not even recently, a long time ago, where I talked about how Tesla and other companies are trying to automate the trucking industry with electric trucks that are self-driving, no drivers needed. And, I hope that never happens. Honest to God, I hope that never happens, because I'd love to have honest men like yourself delivering our stuff. Have you heard anything about that?
Yes, sir. Machine cannot check the oil. Machine cannot open the doors, and machine cannot back that into a door. Now, they may come up with a different set of door configurations or what have you, but there's still going to have to be some human aspect in there, that autonomous trucking. There is no empathy in a machine. A lot of their... Go back and look at stories of where drivers took the ditch instead of hitting a school bus full of kids or a family in a minivan. And they died because of it, because of human empathy. Instead of killing those kids, they took themselves out.
Yeah, man. Amazing. Well, again, Jim, thank you so much for being here. Enjoy the rest of your day off. Have a safe rest of your week. You work hard, my friend, and I appreciate that. And so does the rest of our listener base. Look, if you're watching on YouTube, leave Jim a comment below. Tell him thank you. Click the thumbs up icon. Hit subscribe on our channel here. If you're listening on any of the different podcast places, please go leave us a great review on iTunes or wherever. And Jim, do you have a website or something where people can follow Jim the Trucker? I mean, I just want to ask, and is there any way people can get in touch with you? Or, I don't know, do you have an online business? Because I'm assuming Sean probably forced you to have one by now.
Oh, yes, I do. JimTheTrucker.com and Jim the Trucker video series on YouTube. I have about 150 videos. You stand, back about 10 years.
That's awesome. I love that. All right. So go to YouTube, Jim the Trucker, and you'll find him. And you can also go to jimthetrucker.com. I know I'm going to head over there. I did not realize that was an actual website. So that's awesome. Follow Jim, guys. Support Jim. This is amazing. Thank you very much. And there was no better way for me to kick off Freedom Fridays again than to have this episode. Thank you for listening. As I always say, everybody, when life pushes you, stand straight, smile, and push it the heck back. This is Anik Singal, the fighting entrepreneur, bringing you back Freedom Fridays. We'll see you every Friday with more episodes and more things. And for now, we'll keep a focus on what's going on in the world with actual interviews with actual people living in this corona world. All right? Be safe. Go out there, do what you need to do, and don't use this as an excuse to stop fighting for your dreams. This is Anik Singal signing off. See you on the next one.
Thanks for listening to The Fighting Entrepreneur with your host, Anik Singal.